Welcome to Dilly, where we cheer to educated, conservative conversation and values. My name is Christy McLaughlin. You can call me Christy. We live right now in a time that Vice President Joe Biden, a presidential candidate, states that if you don't vote for him, you ain't black. Or he plays Despacito on his phone to pander to the Latin community at a rally. 50 Cent comes out and supports President Trump due to his tax plan, and he gets relentlessly attacked. It goes so far that his ex-girlfriend, Chelsea Handler, a comedian, states that she had to remind him that he was a black person and that he couldn't vote for Trump. Meanwhile, President Trump is accused of being racist, xenophobic, misogynistic, and all of his followers are the same as well. With me today, I have Angela Swinson, who is with Journey PAC, specifically focused on minority conservatives. We have a very big issue with the Democrat Party exploiting minorities, young people, and women, and Journey PAC is specifically working against that to turn those voters towards the conservative movement just in time for the November 3rd election. Check it out. Thank you so much for joining me, AJ. AJ is with Journey PAC. She is the chief of staff, and I'm going to just jump right in and ask you, why do you work with this PAC? What is your ultimate goal?
Well, I've actually worked in politics for almost 6 years now, on and off, and it's always been something I was very passionate about. I grew up in a conservative household, and as a Black woman, that doesn't always happen that way anymore. And so when it came time for me to start voting and things like that, I experienced this pressure to vote a certain way, to think a certain way politically, and that was very frustrating to me. And I've worked with different conservative organizations. It just kind of was the way that my career went, going from Congress to working with different conservative and Republican and libertarian organizations. And so I started to become more interested in educating voters on conservative principles and values. And that's one of the main goals of Journey PAC. So it just aligned with what I believe and who I am.
And so you mentioned that you were experiencing an enormous amount of pressure. Can you elaborate on that? Was it from the Democrats? Was it just your family? Who was it?
Well, it's from your local community, not my family, because my family is conservative. But just from the local community, especially my first time voting was Barack Obama's second time running. So, you saw on Facebook and things like that, I remember seeing people say, oh, Mitt Romney's gonna have you back in the field picking cotton. And if you're not voting for Barack Obama, don't ever speak to me again. And all this different social pressure. And I just thought, am I just a vote? And why should I vote one way or the other? Why shouldn't I have freedom to vote however I want? And it was the first time I was really faced with that stark reality. And I completely rebelled against it. I decided that I would vote for Mitt Romney. It took me a while, but I decided he was the better choice for me. And I remember I made him my profile picture, and I created this post about why I was supporting him. And the surprise, I wrote, policy, because policy is always what I've been interested in. I wrote the policies that listed why I'm supporting this candidate, how it will help my father who's in business and in cybersecurity, how it will benefit me as someone in Maryland where the tax rates are high. I wrote that, and I had a lot of people privately message me, hey, right on. Thank you for sharing that. But they wouldn't post that as a comment. They would message me. And I just thought, this is crazy. You should be totally free to believe and say whatever you choose. And the fact that the people that are keeping you from saying what you believe and choose are people that look like you, to me, is wrong. It's completely wrong. And so we're fighting against that narrative at Journey PAC.
Awesome. And so when you're mentioning the fact that people were fearful to publicly post about support for any other candidate other than what the mainstream media or the main narrative is pushing, is
Right.
borderline exploitation. As a woman, I have felt the same way. I'm frequently told that as a woman, I'm not allowed to support President Trump. And
Right,
of course, I've always rebelled against that and said that that is just absurd.
right.
But what do you think about that exploitation?
I think I don't think people recognize that the way that they think is small-minded. When I look at President Trump's policy, I'm looking at what he's doing. I'm looking at how it's affecting our standing in the world. Is it preserving our peace of mind? Are we safer? Are businesses able to grow? I mean, I'm thinking of so many other things, so many different things when I'm thinking of who I vote for. So the idea that the fact that I'm Black and female would dictate one specific idea of who I can vote for is simply ridiculous. You've got to have a minuscule um, you've got to have the smallest mind ever. To possibly think that because my experience as a Black woman has been whatever it may have been, that I must vote a certain way, and that anyone with my genitalia and my melanin is specifically required to do a certain thing every 4 years or every 2 years if you count the primaries. I don't think it's exploitation. I just think it's control. It's a way that social groups, at least hierarchies, they force people that they control to think the way they want them to think and do the things that they want them to do. And this has happened throughout history in different ways. Now it's political. That's just a new face of hierarchy and control. A lot of people think that, oh, I'm doing this because I think it's the right thing. No, you're doing this because it's what the higher ups are telling you to do. And if you thought for yourself and still arrived at that conclusion, fine. But think for yourself and figure out if that is where you will line up or not.
100% agree. I'll just list off some of the accomplishments of President Trump, and then we can discuss why your PAC is continuing to work for the conservative movement and supporting President Trump for this election. We have the lowest unemployment rate for African Americans at 5.5% ever. We have the lowest unemployment rate for women at 3.2% since 1953. We have 7 million jobs created, which is great for young people, especially with the $1.56 trillion student debt ceiling rising every day. To have so many opportunities for careers once you leave the education fields is, I think, wonderful for young voters. He's pro-life, which is pro-woman. And he also implemented criminal justice reform. He got Alice Johnson out of jail after 21 years for a first-time drug offense, and that's just pro-American. What do you think about all that?
I mean, I 100% agree. I'm one of the 1 out of 4 Black Americans that has had a family member go to jail. And when you think about the reality of the federal government through Joe Biden and Kamala Harris enforcing strict 3-strike laws and things like that, and how it trickled down into the states and influenced this really ridiculous, harsh criminal justice platform where you have Joe on the floor talking about how we shouldn't care about how poor they are. We shouldn't care about their background and the horrible things they've experienced. Lock them up. Well, I don't appreciate that, Joe. And there were real human beings that were affected by what you were doing and what you supported. And now you want to tell me that I'm not Black if I don't support you. And I personally take pretty strong offense to that. So if we want to talk, the things that you listed that President Trump did are all true. We can add to that the fact that we have entered into no new wars, no new conflicts overseas. We entered into multiple new different conflicts under Barack Obama. We were busy overseas under Barack Obama, unfortunately. And although President Trump hasn't been able to bring all the troops home, we haven't seen that growth a lot. We haven't seen ISIS grow. So we're safer today than we were when Obama was in office and when Bill Clinton, I mean, we can go back. We're safer now than we've been in a long time. So we can look at that. We can look at the fact that we're energy independent, and that's a large part of why we're safer. We're not reliant, everyone's saying, oh, the presidents went into the Middle East for oil. We don't need oil. We have enough resources here. And President Trump has allowed us to become energy independent. So now you have countries in the Middle East saying, oh, we'll make peace deals with Israel. You have the UAE and others saying, oh, we recognize Israel as its own nation. A part of that is all because of policy. And so not only are we economically stronger, but we're also safer. And when we talk about economic empowerment, the first thing as a Black woman, the first thing you should want for your community is for them to be economically empowered, because all other types of power come from economic power. A lot of people saying, oh, if we get Black people in office, oh, if we have all political power, no, every type of power comes from economic empowerment. When people aren't hungry, they can think about who they want to vote for much better. So this idea that we should be expecting the president to pay our bills and pay this and take care of this no, if we're economically empowered, we can do all that for ourselves and more. We can have freedom in the marketplace as to what we want to buy and what we don't want. And we'll have that freedom that we can exercise power in other ways. So economic empowerment should be our number one goal, and we should be voting for the person who will economically empower us the most.
And so New Journey PAC is a boots on the ground PAC. What exactly is your mission statement, and what have you been doing for the November 3rd election?
Well, I'm a little under the weather, and so is my boss, very much so. We have been working around the clock to push President Trump forward and to push forward the different candidates. We're endorsing candidates around the country from California to New York who have a large group of Black constituents or who are strong Black conservatives who are running for office. So we've been setting up billboard ads, we've been doing television ads, radio ads, we've got canvassers here in Florida. When I tell you, literally every different avenue we can take, we are doing to push this election forward. We understand the gravity of this election, and we are not wasting any time to make sure that the president has the support he needs on the ground to make this happen. And one thing we believe is important at New Journey PAC is that ads are amazing and we're great at that, but it's important that people be able to talk to you, that they be able to see you in their neighborhoods, working on their behalf, supporting their needs, and hearing what they desire for their community. And so that's the importance of boots on the ground. Our goal is to open engagement centers across the country in Black majority epicenters, neighborhoods, because we want Black people to know that the Republican Party has policies that can benefit us. And we want to be there to support people who are interested or curious, because as you've seen, a lot of Black people are beginning to break away from this idea that, oh, I can't support a Republican president. Oh, they're all racist. We're seeing people break away from that. We have to be there on the ground to capture the one here, the one there, the two here that are saying, I have questions about this. I agree with you. I don't agree with what I'm hearing on the Democratic side. I don't agree with what their view of feminism and their views on abortion. I don't agree with a lot of this stuff, but I don't know, does the Republican Party, does it represent me? We want to be there to answer those questions and to draw those people in and to disciple them in conservatism, basically.
Fantastic. Now, prediction for 2020, is Trump going to win? Prayers?
So basically what I'm saying is that, yes, I believe that we should not take the polls 100% to heart, because I do believe that they are not able to truly get to Trump supporters. They talk to largely women, largely different groups. So we have to be careful trusting polling, but we need to take seriously the threat that it is that the poll numbers are what they are. And every single person needs to be bringing a person to the polls. We've got to get beyond this secret Trump support where we don't want to say anything. We're just all hoping that everyone in our neighborhood is going to do it on their own. No, you need to get out there and make sure that people are coming out, that they're supporting, that they're voting. And we cannot leave this up to chance, especially when you have states like Pennsylvania, where they'll be counting ballots after Election Day, even if we don't know when they were postmarked. So we cannot have a close race. 4 years ago, we had a close race where some states were within a few percentage points of Trump winning or losing. And we can't afford that this time because of the mail-in ballot system that's going on. A lot of people are going to be complaining, oh, my ballot didn't get in the mail. Oh, my vote, blah, blah, blah. There's going to be different issues that we're going to have for the first time in our history. So we cannot allow this race to be close at all. So the silent Trump voter, it's time for you. I know people might threaten you. I know people might make you feel like they're going to take things away from you, but we cannot afford to be silent voters this time. You have to get out there and get out the vote. And that's what New Journey's doing on the ground as well.
Thank you so much, AJ, for doing this interview with me. Where can we find New Journey online?
So you can find New Journey, www.newjourneypac.org. And as well at New Journey PAC on all social media platforms. We're on Parler, etc. LinkedIn,
Awesome.
follow us there.
Thank you so much, AJ. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Happy Halloween.
Right.